We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis in Meseches. This is Nazir Daf 58b. On the previous Amud, the Gemara identified two sources by Mitzorah that teach us that an asay is docha, a losa asay, and an asay. The first source is that it says by Mitzorah that he shaves his head, even though it already says he shaves all the hair on his body. Why does it say his head? And the idea is, let's say he's a Mitzorah and a Nazir, and so you have a situation where there's an asay and a losa asay that he's not supposed to be shaving his head. And so we say by Mitzorah, it says Rosho, the Mitzorah does shave his head. The asay by Mitzorah is docha, the losa asay, and the asay. And so the Gemara had asked on the previous summit, why do we need that pasuk? There's another pasuk by Mitzorah that teaches the same thing. It says it's a kano, it says his beard. And let's say you have a Mitzorah who's a Kohen, so there's an asay and a losa asay, not to destroy the beard for a Kohen. And so we have an asay and a losa asay, and you have the asay of Mitzorah that he should shave, and the asay is docha, the losa asay and the asay. So the Gemara had asked, why do we need Rosh if you already have Zakano? It's teaching the same thing. But then the Gemara said, if that's the case, the truth is that in general we hold the lo asi asay v'dachias lo sasay v'asay. It's true by these situations over here by Mitzorah, but in general we hold that an asay is not docha, a lo sasay and an asay. And you can ask the same kind of question. Leilif mi Kohen. Why not learn out from Kohen? Meaning to say again, Kohen Mitzorah. The dachi, that just like over there by a Mitzorah who's a Kohen, the asay is docha, the lo sasay and the asay. We should learn it out everywhere. Obviously, we can't learn everything out from Kohen. Elami Kohen lo yalfin, and obviously there's something unique about a Kohen that we don't learn it out from the case of Kohen Mitzorah, because Mala Kohen Shekain Lav Sheino Shava Bekol, because if you're talking about a negative commandment that is only for a Kohen and not for everyone, so that's something you can't necessarily learn out to other cases, and that's why we have the pasuk by Nazir as well, meaning to say the pasuk of Rosho by Mitzorah. Nazir mi Kohen Nami Lo Yal. If we're not going to learn out the case of a Nazir Mitzorah from a Kohen Mitzorah also, Shekain Lav Sheino Shava Bekol, because again, Kohen is a lav that doesn't apply to everybody, it applies only by a Kohen. You can't learn it to other cases. And the Gemara continues, Uman demukim lahai rosho ben Nazir, lamali zakana. Now, the one who says that the word rosho is talking about a Nazir, and again, it's talking about a situation of an asay docha losa asay v'asay, that the Mitzorah shaves, even though there's an asay and a losa asay for a Nazir not to shave. So lamali zakana. So again, what do you need zakana for? That seems to be teaching the same basic idea. And the Gemara says, no, mi boy le'lechidatanya. We need it for the following brisa. It says zakano matam velomer. Why does it say by Mitzorah zakano? Again, it doesn't seem to be teaching us anything extra. The reason is as follows, because it says that they're not allowed to shave the corners of their beard. That's a pasuk again by a Kohen. Yachalav Kohen Mitzorah Kain. I might think that a Kohen Mitzorah also can't shave the beard. Talmud Lomer zakano. That's why it says zakano. But here's the main point. Umenolon devitar. Now, how do we know specifically that we're talking about a razor? Meaning to say, how do we know that the Mitzorah needs to shave with a razor? That is learned from this. The Tanya, as we learned in a brayso, paas zakanim lo yigalechu. It says again, they're not allowed to shave the corners of their beard. Yachol af gilchu b'misparayim yechayiv. I might think that that applies even if they shave it with the scissors. Talmud Lomer, so the pasuk says, and this is talking about by all Jews, it's not talking only by Kohanim. The pasuk says velo sashchis, that they can't destroy the beard, and we learn from the combination. But the Gemara says ilo sashchis, but if it's to not destroy it, and so therefore you're saying that misparayim, that the scissors are going to be okay. So yachol liktan b'malket uvrehitni chayiv. So I might think, let's say you take it with a tweezers or with a plane, a carpenter's plane, you should also be chayiv. Talmud Lomer upaaz zakanim lo yigalechu. So it says upaaz zakanim lo yigalechu, meaning to say it does have to be some kind of shaving. It can't be any destruction. It has to be qualified as shaving as well. And therefore we understand the ezu giluach sheyesh bo ashchaso. What are we talking about that is considered both shaving, but it's a shaving that is considered to be destruction? So haviyomer zetar. That tells us the combination of these two psukim, upaaz zakanim lo yigalechu and velo sashchis, tells us that the prohibition is specifically when using a razor, when using a tar, and therefore, since the prohibition of destroying the beard is specifically when using a razor, and we have a pasuk to tell us that by a Mitzorah he's allowed to do that, obviously by the Mitzorah it must be that he has to use a razor for the mitzvah, and that's the whole point. Since the Mitzorah has to use a razor, so therefore we're trying to say that a Mitzorah who is a Kohen, even he is allowed to, and even he is supposed to shave the beard, and we are not concerned with the violation in that case, because we say that the asay is docha, the lo sasay v'asay. And so the point is, the reason why it says is zakano, even though it doesn't seem that we need zakano, we already know that asay is docha, lo sasay v'asay. We learned that out from Rosho, but we need zakano to say that specifically by Mitzorah, the obligation is to shave with a razor, and the whole point again is that obligation takes place even in a situation where you have a Kohen, and there's an asay that is docha, lo sasay v'asay. But the Gemara continues, now going back to the one who says, again we had two opinions going back to the previous daf. So there was one opinion that said that the word Rosho by Mitzora is actually only telling us that the Aseh is Docha Los Aseh. It's not telling us an Aseh is Docha Los Aseh v'Aseh, but it's only being Docha Los Aseh. Which Los Aseh are we talking about? The Los Aseh of Los Akifu. There's a Los Aseh in general. You can't round out the corners of your hair. You're not allowed to shave the payas, so to speak. And Rosho is saying that a Mitzora does do that. He does shave. He does round out the corners of his head. So if that's the case, so Lamali Lamichtav Rosho, V'Lamali Lamichtav Zikano. Why does it have to say both Rosho and Zakano? Mashma lemidchi lav greda, umashma lemidchi los aseh v'aseh. Because you have over here a situation where really it could be mashma both ways. We'll see the rush in a moment why, but really just one term can be mashma both that it's docha a regular lav and that it's docha los aseh v'aseh. Hilkach shakalu. Therefore, all things being equal. Shakalu v'avo shneim. We really would be able to learn out all of them from one term. You don't really need both. And the Gemara answers, you do need both for the following reason. Kohen min Nazir lo yala. If you can't learn Kohen from Nazir, shekain yeshno b'she'ela. Everything has something unique about it. By Nazir, it's unique that you're able to ask a chacham and undo. It's a neder that can be undone. And Nazir mi Kohen lo yala. If you can't learn Nazir from Kohen, shekain lav she'eno shava b'kol. That's, as we said earlier, that's a lav that doesn't apply to everyone. Uvi'alma lo yalfinan minayu. That's why in general you can't learn aseh docha losa aseh v'aseh from these cases. Misham de'ikal mifrach, because each case is unique. Nazir is unique and Kohen is unique, Kid Amron, like we said, and therefore that is the reason why both are necessary. And we'll take a look at the Rush, who will explain what the Gemara is saying here. And the Rush explains, going back to the top of the Yamad, Uman Demuki Rosho ben Nazir Zakano Lamali, the one who says that Rosho is talking about Nazir, so what do we need Zakano for? Again, if you're saying that Rosho is talking about Nazir, that's already Aseh Docha, Losa Aseh V'Aseh, and Zakano seems to be teaching the same thing. The Rush just points out, having Matzi L'Shanuye, the Gemara already at this point, and the Gemara is going to answer that it teaches us that a Mitzorah specifically has to shave with a razor. But the Rush points out you could have given another answer along the lines of what's coming up in the Gemara. Having Matzi L'Shanuye, the Kohen min Nazir lo asi, the Gemara could have simply said, we can't learn Kohen from Nazir, shekain yeshno b'she'ela, because Nazir is unique, because there's a concept of she'ela. The Nazir is able to ask to undo the neder, to undo the Naziris, kidakam b'samach. That's what the Gemara is going to say nearby. Ela da'adifi minei kamishani. But the Gemara just happens to have a better answer for that, because the Gemara wants to say, you know what Zakana is for? It's through Zakana that we learn that the shaving of a Mitzorah is specifically with a razor. The idea is, again, you're not chayev on destroying the beard except if you're using a razor. And from the fact that you need the word zakano to say that the mitzora, that aseh for him to shave pushes off the los aseh and the aseh by a kohen not to destroy the beard, shma mina the mitzora eno megaleach ela b'tar. You end up learning out that a mitzora has to shave only with a razor. Dimotzi legaluche below tar lo havidache, because if there was some other way for the mitzora to be able to shave, there'd be no reason to be doche the aseh and the los aseh. Uminazir lo shaminan le deshem masvirle command damar parakimol minim. And now the Rush points out, from Nazir you can't really learn this out regarding the razor, because it could be that he holds like the shita that says in parakimol minim lo yavor l'rabos kolam avirim, that when it comes to Nazir, so the prohibition for a Nazir to shave his hair is with any instrument. It doesn't have to only be with a tar. So therefore, you can't learn this idea out from Nazir. We're learning it specifically out from the Mitzorah that is a Kohen, and from that we learn out again that the Mitzorah shaves specifically with a razor. And the Rush continues, Uman du'uki rosho l'lav greda. Now, according to the one who says that the word rosho is just being docha, a simple lav, that's the lav of lo sakifu. So the Gemara had asked, Lamali l'michtav rosho v'lamali l'michtav zakano. Still, why do we need to write both rosho and zakano? And the Rush explains the question as follows: Lichtov zakano, all you need to do is write zakano, that the Mitzorah shaves his beard. Demashma bein b'Yisrael di'ikalav greda bein b'kohen di'ikalav yaseh. The way the Rush understands is that the word zakano, you don't know if we're talking about a Kohen or a Yisrael. By Yisrael, the shaving of the beard is just a lav. By a Kohen, as we said in the previous summer, there's also an additional aseh of kedoshim to you, and so therefore it's mashma both really. It's mashma Yisrael, a Mitzorah who's a Yisrael shaves the beard, and a Mitzorah who's a Kohen shaves the beard, whether it's a lav and the aseh. V'lishtog mei rosho. Therefore, you don't really need rosho at all. That's what the Gemara means to say. It's shkulim him. They're all equal anyway. Everything should be able to be learned out just from zakano. And the Gemara's answer is umeshani the lav shkulim him. The Gemara says no, it's not all the same. It's not all equal. Because any way you try to learn it out, there really is a pircha, so you can't necessarily learn out one from the other, and that's the point of the Gemara. You can't learn out from these cases to other cases also. Kedamar Damala Kohen Sheino Shava Bakol, because like we said, a Kohen is unique. The Isser only applies to a Kohen. Hilkach Lo Yalfinan Minei. That's why we can't learn from it. Sheyidcha Asay Los Asay V'Asay, that an Asay is able to push off a Los Asay and an Asay. And we will take a look at Tosas as well. V'hashtam motzi l'shenuye. The Gemara then answers the im is zakano, that if we only had zakano equal a mifrach, we could refute it. Shekain lav sheino shava bakolu. That's a lav sheino shava bakol. Tosas approaches the lesse benoshim. The reason why zakano is not shava bakol is because it doesn't apply to women. They don't have beards. V'itzrich rosho, and that's why rosho is needed. That's what the Gemara is saying. Dimeino inyan lelav sheino shava bakol. Tneyu inyan l'shava bakol, because you have one. Again, you have one pasuk that's telling us regarding a lav that's eino shava bakol, but then you have another one that's talking about a lav that is shava lakol, that applies to everyone. That's what rosho is needed for. Veneer, and appears the salka daite the shkulim hein ulakach modelo de los ase greda hashava bakol kamo los ase vase she'eno shava bakol. The point over here is that this los ase alone, let's say by rosho, it's pushing off the los ase of los akifu. Now that is a los ase that's shava bakol, so that is the same thing as a los ase and an ase that's eno shava bakol, referring to zakano. That's why we need both. Ela herich yoser. Now the point according to Tosas, the Gemara then just gets a little more lengthy in terms of bringing in Nazir. There's really no reason at this point to bring in Nazir. The real point over here is, why can you not only write zakano? What do you need rosho for? And the answer again is because rosho is telling us, what if you have a situation of something that is shava bakol? Why does the Gemara go on and discuss Nazir and Kohen back and forth? The ID the boy lasuke ach pircha masik v'yazel lekuleit study the pirchas. Once we're already doing this, we go through all the various refutations why each thing can't be learned one from the other. Umeshani Kohen mi Nazir lo yalef. That's why the Gemara says Kohen wouldn't be learned from Nazir. Shekain yeshno b'she'ela, because there's a possibility of asking to get it undone. The Nazir mi Kohen lo yalef, and Nazir can't be learned from Kohen. Shekain lav sheino shava bakol, because it's a lav that's not shava bakol. Uvialma lo yalfinan minayu, and etc. That's why we're not able to learn from them to other cases. Mishum deikol amifrach kida amran. Like the Gemara says, you have the refutations that we just said above. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Amar Rav says, Mekel Adam Kal Gufa Betar. A person's allowed to use a razor on his whole body to remove his hair. And Rashi over here explains, Amar Rav, Mekel Adam Kal Gufa Betar, Ve'ein bo mishum lo yilbash gever simlas isha. What Rav is saying is, it's not a problem of a man wearing a garment of a woman. You might have thought that it's the way of women to shave all the hair off on their body, and so it's not a violation of that Isser, according to Rav. And the Gemara says, Meisvei, we have a question from the following brayso: Hamavir beis hashechiu beis ha'erva. If a person removes the hair by the armpits or by the area of the erva, hareza loka, the person gets malchus. That goes against what Rav said. Rav seemed to say that it's not prohibited, that it's mutter to do so. And the Gemara answers, ha betar, ha b'misparayim. It depends if you're talking about a razor, that would be prohibited, that would be malchus. But if a person is doing it with the scissors, that's what Rav was talking about. But the Gemara says, what do you mean? Rav nami betar ka'amar. Rav said that a person's allowed to use a razor. How could you say that Rav is talking only about the scissors? And the Gemara says, ke'ein tar, he just meant similar to a razor, as Rashi over here says, ke'ein tar shegazat b'misparayim b'samuch lebasar ke'ein tar. Rav meant that a person's allowed to use scissors very close to the skin, just like a razor would cut. But even according to Rav, a person is not allowed to actually use a razor. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yechia bar Abba, Amar Rav Yochanan. Rav Yechia bar Abba says that Rav Yochanan says, Hamavir beis hashechiu beis ha'erva lok. If somebody removes the hair by the armpits or the area of the erva, the person will get malchus. And the Gemara says, Meisvei, we have a question from the following brayso: Havaras seir eino midivrei Torah ela midivrei sofrim. If a person removes the hair, it's not an isser midoraisa, it is only an isser midorabanan. And the Gemara says, "My lokanami de ka'amar." No, even when Rabbi Yochanan said the person gets malchus, he agrees really with this brayso. He just meant midrabanan. He just meant malchus on a drabanan level. Rashi explains, Meisvei havara seir sar shel kol guf. If a person removes the hair of his whole body, kagon shav beis hashechi, like the area by the armpits, v'shav beis ha'erva, and the area by the erva, eina midivrei Torah. It's not midivrei Torah. V'yata amrit loka, and you, Rav Yochanan, are saying it is malchus. And again, my loka, the amri, what do we mean? Malchus, makos, mardus, midrabanan. We just mean malchus mardus, which is the drabanan kind of malchus. We will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph.